Hey y'all, and welcome to another edition of Confederate Shop's Hidden Gem. This is where I take one book and I look into it and tell you why you need to have it in your library. This week I've got a first-hand account that is one that you definitely need to have in your library if you're a student of the Confederacy or Confederate history. It is a Southern view of the invasion of the Southern states and the War of 1861 to 1865. This is a very short book, and how it would be classified by modern academia is a classic piece of the lost cause narrative. Now, we who love Confederate history know that the lost cause narrative is actually the truth. Many of these modern day academics claim that the lost cause is a myth, that it's all full of lies and it's all full of deceit, and there's this grand scheme for all post-war Confederates to lie about their heritage to try to make it seem better than it was. But if you really look at the history that's involved in some of these publications, they have the historical facts to back up their claims, many of which are in this book. Now, this was written by, according to this book, the last living commissioned officer of the Confederacy. Now, it's Captain S.A. Ashe. His full name is Samuel Ashe, and it actually has a photograph of him right here in the book. He was a highly educated man, and you can tell from this book itself, he did a lot of research on this book. And that's the thing about these facts, is we make these statements and people think that we don't back them up with factual information. You know, one of the claims in this book, it talks about secession, and it talks about how a state has a right, a sovereign right in amongst its people to decide what's best for its people within its borders, within its state. That's based on many of the documents that were used when these states ratified the Constitution. This book actually mentions it on page 29, and I was reading this chapter this morning on secession, but it gives the ratification documents of both New York and Rhode Island. And just listen to this. Just listen to this historical fact. This is what they said when they ratified the Constitution. We, the delegates of the people of Rhode Island and the plantations duly elected, etc., do declare and make known that the powers of government may be resumed by the people whenever it shall become necessary to their happiness, as in the ratification of New York. So we have New York, we have Rhode Island, we have Virginia, we have Texas. We have various states that when they entered this union agreement, they made it perfectly clear that if it did not suit their needs, as the people, the sovereign people, decided it didn't suit their needs, then they were no longer held to that agreement. So that's their legal argument when it came to secession in the 1860s. And this book right here is going to go into such a good variety of issues, basic issues about Lincoln and the unconstitutional things that he committed. It's just a classic, quote, lost cause piece, which when I say lost cause, the academics refer to the lost cause as this myth, but in reality, it's based in truth. And this is just a good first-hand account of what Confederates believed. So if you are a student of history, you're a student of Confederate history in particular, this book is something you need to have in your library. So get a copy today. I'm going to have it discounted this weekend for the people who follow my newsletter. And again, if you don't follow Confederate Shop's newsletter, it is something you need to follow. Once a week, I send out a newsletter with deals like this, the first releases of these videos. There are also good deals in there, and there are historical articles that I find in old newspapers and I find in books that I share on there. So if you love history, you need to connect with my weekly newsletter, and all you do is go to confederateshop.com, you scroll the way down and put in your name and email address, and you will be signed up to receive my newsletter. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you all have a wonderful week.